is a thing of the past.
Absolutely, not stealthy at all. Folks, by the way, I embedded the answer right there in my setup to Dr. Patel. I said Moderna asking for that fourth vaccine shot for all adults. So
I
it was
caught
one of
that.
those, yeah, who's buried in Grant's tomb kind of questions, I suppose. But thank you so much. That was very helpful. So since we brought up Moderna, let's go ahead and explore that a little bit more. Their premise for asking for the FDA approval for a fourth shot, why wasn't a third shot, the booster, if you will, doing a good enough job at protecting us? People are asking, is it really needed?
It still is, Kristen. The data still shows that it is greatly protective against hospitalizations. The concerning new data that has been used to support getting a fourth shot for older individuals in other countries, Israel, Sweden, for example, is that there is some waning in immunity after 5 months. And the recent data is showing that the protection against hospitalizations drops to about 75, 85% in those older individuals. But again, after 6 months, there's not a lot of data out there to show that a fourth dose is needed to protect against hospitalizations with a new potential surge. The only data being cited right now is that a fourth shot can boost antibody levels to that after the third shot and that it's safe. But again, that doesn't tell us the entire picture. So it does seem like a little bit of a leap with Moderna saying all adults above 18, doctor's discretion. But what Pfizer is doing seems a little bit more in line with what the other countries are doing right now and what data currently shows.
Right, because Pfizer is asking for the, over 65s? So people who could use more of an immunity boost who are a little more at risk, right? So more surgical approach.
It is. And, if I can add one thing, you'll hear a lot of headlines right now comparing what's happening in the UK to what could happen here. But Kristen, here's the reality. In the UK, above the age of 65, we have about a 90% booster rate. In the United States, it's about 65%. So it doesn't matter what booster we approve. People have to actually go out and get that. So people are saying, hey, we need a fourth booster to protect ourselves. Why don't we focus on getting the other third who don't yet have their third shot fully vaccinated?
I see what you're saying, right? The bigger pickup would be if we can get more people to A, get their vaccines, original series, and, B, getting their first boosters. But you mentioned UK, so let's talk about that because they're seeing a big uptick in their BA2, the Omicron subvariant cases, and that's growing here as well. I think, 20% of the cases here now. So let me ask you, if it is more transmissible than Omicron, is there any evidence that it is more potent?
Not yet. So we fortunately don't have any evidence right now to say that this is a more virulent strain, that it's going to potentially cause more people to be hospitalized in comparison to previous variants. But again, and we talked about this with Omicron, if you have a large population infected, you inevitably will lead to more severe illness, more people who are vulnerable getting sick. And that could lead to overcrowded hospitals, people missing work, and so forth. So it's still something that we have to pay attention to when you have the trifecta of a more transmissible variant, waning immunity, and restrictions being lifted all over the country. That is a dangerous setup.
Okay, but if it's more virulent, like it's more transmissible, but it's not more potent, hopefully, could it actually be good from a virus evolution standpoint?
I like where you're going here. Now, from a virus evolution standpoint, if the virus just wants to survive, then yes, in terms of a virus becoming more contagious and not actually damaging its host as much, that's what a virus wants to do.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of a population level, we have a great baseline level of immunity right now in the United States between vaccine acquired and natural immunity. And then even if you discount that, the availability of treatments and vaccines out there, this should give everyone a little bit of comfort in saying that even if we do see another huge uptick in cases, which we just might, we're not going to see the same level of severity we did just in December when Omicron first came around.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about what's happening on the White House level, because I'm seeing that testing, which is a vital part of this, funding is being discontinued, and even some doctors are criticizing. What is happening?
Well, Kristen, what's happening is, unfortunately, that mantra of we're over COVID, we're tired of COVID, is now spreading into policy and public health funding. So when the $22.5 billion that is being argued about right now, when that was discussed, what we saw with the White House warning us is that, hey, the supply of antivirals might actually run out in June and August. We might not have the same capacity for testing vaccines. And a lot of this is putting those at risk, or people who don't have health insurance at a particular risk, because right now all this is being offered for free. So that could be currently jeopardized. And I'm not trying to get into politics here, but one aspect of this, one argument was one side of this saying, hey, we need more transparency in where the money is going. When you look at it from the other lens, you're like, there's a lot of people out there who have trepidation because we're heading into a place where we may see an uptick in subvariant cases, in addition to what I just mentioned with lifting restrictions and waning immunity, and the fact that we may actually run out of some of these protective supplies that have been guaranteed to us.
Okay, well, that is concerning.
It's a lot.
Yeah, but I want to ask you, though, you mentioned the antivirals. So I read something about Paxlovid, that is the Pfizer-made antiviral, and the fact that generics are going to be able to be produced, even though normally when you have a new drug, companies have a patent. What's the deal there?
This is actually great news in terms of where we need to be in terms of getting equitable distribution across the world. But basically, there is an organization based in Europe that looks at these patents of medications. And they essentially granted the right for 35 companies to make a generic version of Paxlovid in 95 countries. So inevitably, we will be getting access to 50% of the world. 50% of the world will get access to this medication, this antiviral pill from Pfizer, that has been shown to prevent hospitalizations by 90%. So that sounds great, but a couple of issues here is number one, we need it now, not potentially in a year or two when these companies can actually ramp up production. And also that's 50% of the world. There's a large part of the world that's missing there, namely sub-Saharan Africa and Latin America.
All right. I want to turn to kids just for a little bit. Obviously, those under 5 are still waiting for a vaccine to be approved. And, you know, parents are confused right now because most schools here no longer require masks. And I see, Mark, I see your question. I can't get to it individually, but I know you're concerned about protecting infants and toddlers. So I'm going to give you just one quick minute, Dr. Patel, to talk about, I know there are things you want to say to parents.
The most important thing I want to say to parents is I completely understand the fear and the anxiety. And it almost feels like parents out there, especially those who have high-risk children, are wading into uncharted territory right now as we're reopening. Just remember that all the levels of layered protection that we've been relying on still work, and take some reassurance to the fact that right now, at least in the Bay Area, we have a very high vaccination rate. We have a very responsible public around us, and you should feel absolutely empowered to chat with your daycares and chat with those schools and look to see what levels of protection they have in place. Because unfortunately, it doesn't look like we have a vaccine available for kids under the age of 5 right now. And we're not going to for possibly a month or two. And so we have to do everything we can right now to keep them protected. And that is open dialogue, that's testing, that's wearing a mask if your child can tolerate it. And that's some reassurance in the fact that we have a lot higher baseline protection right now.
All right, Dr. Patel, that's great information. By the way, is that an Arizona State pin, your alma mater that you're wearing?
Oh, not Arizona State. This is U of A.
Oh,
this is
so
home of the
sorry.
Wildcats.
How dare
Watch
I?
us go far in NCAA and March Madness. All the way, baby.
All
Bear
right.
down.
I got you. All right, go Arizona. Thank you, Dr. Patel. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back with San Francisco filmmaker Abel Sanchez to talk about his new documentary that looks at the life of civil rights activist Cesar Chavez in a way that has never been done before, musically. All right, everybody, thanks for your participation in Two Truths and a Lie today. You guys had some really good guesses, but I knew that one. Oh, some of you did too. Lori, Linda, yay, Debbie. All right, good job. All right, we'll be right back. Today, a new documentary film is out that presents a unique view of the life and legacy of American labor leader and civil rights activist Cesar Chavez. A Song for Cesar tells the story of the musicians and artists who dedicated their talents to peacefully advance Chavez's movement to fight for rights and protections for farm workers. It was co-produced by San Francisco native Abel Sanchez. Sanchez also co-wrote the title song with Carlos Santana's brother, Jorge Santana.
We didn't know who we were. We were seeking identity. Cesar Chavez gave us that.
A Song for Cesar opens today at San Francisco's Opera Plaza. And joining us live to talk about it is filmmaker and musician Abel Sanchez. Abel, thank you so much for joining us today. Congratulations on your film.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you, Kristen.
Tell me what inspired you to make it.
My inspiration, I think, came from working with the Cesar Chavez familia, his family, on a stamp campaign prior to writing the song. And it kind of felt like Cesar was still with me when I was in the studio recording with Jorge Santana, and this song came about. And we just were inspired. The words came out of the spirit, if you will. And next thing I know, we had a song. And that evolved into people saying, wow, this song is great. You should put some footage to it, because it was dedicated song. It was Song for Cesar, right? Titled, and the words and everything. So that kind of catapulted into next thing, do a documentary, a full, documentary off of this. And that's how it started. So the inspiration came without intention, as my good friend Maya Angelou told me. Without intention, many works of art happen. At the beginning, she told me that. I thought, wow, that's interesting, because that's how it happened for me.
Yeah, I mean, this is really unique. There have been many stories told of Cesar Chavez, but this is a journey, looking at the journey through the eyes of famous musicians and artists who supported him and his mission. Tell us about some of these artists.
Well, that's what eventually told the story. We started realizing that what's different about our approach for this documentary. And we all of a sudden realized that it was how important music and the arts became to make Cesar's movement possible in many ways. To support for the cause, and they did benefits. They played for free many just in this beautiful movement that was helping workers.
I know.
And then we interview more everybody.
All right, Abel, I'm so sorry. We are having some signal issues, so I'm going to have to say thank you so much. And I do hope people check out the film, A Song for Cesar. It is amazing. There's just so much there. Carlos Santana, who, at his concerts, allowed petitioners, for example, for the Cesar Chavez state holiday to gather signatures there because they so believed in what he was doing, to really give farm workers the right to unionize, to get protections. There is so much there. So again, the film is A Song for Cesar, and I do hope you get a chance to check it out. All right, coming up next, you can take a walking tour to learn all about how women have helped shape the city of San Francisco. We'll be right back with more. All right, folks, take a short break and be right back with another terrific segment. Welcome back. It's Women's History Month, and today we're taking a closer look at the impact women have made and continue to make here in San Francisco. You can learn about how women have helped shape our city through a self-guided walking tour organized by SF Travel. Joining us live now with all the details, Lynn Bruni, Senior Vice President of SF Travel. By the way, that's a group that promotes the San Francisco region as a top global destination. Lynn, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Kristen. So happy to be here today.
I really can't wait to hear about it. What's the big idea behind this tour?
So the big idea is that San Francisco has long been, filled with innovators and people who have been trailblazers, and many of those people are women. So for Women's History Month, we decided to curate a walking tour, a self-guided walking and public transit tour to points of interest throughout the city that were influenced by very important women in San Francisco.
That is such a great idea, right? I mean, because I've lived here most of my life, and I see very few landmarks named after women, yet we know women have made a big impact on the city.
Absolutely. Well, the walking tour actually starts at Coit Tower, and that is named for Lily Hitchcock Coit. The tower was erected to pay homage to the volunteer firefighters who she admired very much after the 1906 earthquake. So there is a tower that was built and named for a very influential woman in San Francisco.
Got it. All right. So where's the next stop?
The next stop is the Julia Morgan Ballroom, which is named also for a very influential woman, Julia Morgan. She was actually the first licensed architect in the state of California. It's a beautiful piece, and she is one of the most influential designers of her time and was very instrumental in the rebuild of the city in 1906.
You know, I went to UC Berkeley, so I know there are buildings she designed there, and the Julia Morgan Ballroom is just gorgeous in the city and worth a visit. Do you know if you can just drop in? Do you need to wait till there's a specific event?
I believe you do need to wait for an event, but outside of the ballroom is some beautiful architecture to enjoy as well. And go Bears! I went to UC Berkeley as well, so
right.
There's lots of wonderful buildings on the Cal campus that Julia Morgan designed.
All right, Lynn, this next stop on the tour, I think we do need to talk about. It's a monument to the comfort women of World War II, right?
Yes, it is. It's located in St. Mary's Square, and it was built to honor the women who were basically held captive in the Japanese brothels. So it does feature statues of Asian women to pay, honor to those who really had a extremely difficult time. That's an understatement during World War II.
Yeah, no, it was in the news, certainly, when that monument happened, and it does commemorate a terrible piece of our history that we shouldn't forget when the women were forced to essentially serve in brothels for soldiers. And okay, after that stop, we turn to something a little, Union Square. In Union Square, the Goddess of Victory statue. I've certainly seen it, but I've never wondered what was the story behind that. So what is it?
It was erected after our victory in the Spanish-American War, and many people say it looks like Alma Spreckels, who is a San Francisco well-known heiress. You may know the Spreckels Mansion.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be the goddess Nike, so it's all about power and strength.
Ah, okay. And then next stop, you take us to San Francisco City Hall. Now, we know we have a female mayor, and of course, we had Mayor Dianne Feinstein, who's now Senator Dianne Feinstein. But tell us about why this is a worthy stop when you talk about the history of women in the city.
Well, you've basically outlined it perfectly.
Sorry.
There are two female. No, that's okay. It's a beautiful, beautiful building. It's definitely awe-inspiring, and it is open to the public to just go in and admire its beauty. We do have two very famous women, Dianne Feinstein, who's now a senator, and of course, Mayor London Breed, who is only our second mayor, but she is our first African-American mayor, which is hugely important as well. So that's why we have it highlighted on the tour.
All right, and these next two are really cool. I've actually never been and would love to. The Women's Building and San Francisco Women Artist Gallery. Tell us about those two spots.
So the San Francisco Women's Building is in the Mission District, and it is absolutely breathtaking. It's covered in murals of really powerful, strong women, and it contains a cultural center that actually advocates for gender diversity and social justice. So it's a very important stop. And one of the things that's also great to note about this tour is we're touching on a lot of different neighborhoods in San Francisco. So it's wonderful to think about the fact that women have had influence, and these are being honored all throughout the city.
Indeed. Yeah, no, you cover a lot of ground because the last stop is Nancy Pelosi Drive in Golden Gate Park. House Speaker from San Francisco, enough said. And that's a wonderful place to end it after so much of the city. You end up in a beautiful place of natural beauty. Hey, so how much ground does it cover mileage-wise? And do we do it driving or walking?
You can do it walking, and then of course we always encourage you to use public transit. Depends on, I don't know exactly the mileage, but if you consider the fact that the city is 49 square miles, so 7 by 7, you could get a very good walk-in if you decided to walk the whole thing. And obviously, like I mentioned, you'll traverse through many different neighborhoods.
I think you could pair this with a culinary tour together because you're burning off the calories and then you can consume it. Right. I want to ask you, since you represent SF Travel, is travel coming back? Are we seeing signs of life in tourism?
We absolutely are. We're a little bit slower to recover than some other cities. And part of that was because we were one of the first to close down during the pandemic and one of the last to kind of open and lift restrictions. So that has really impacted our tourism industry. We were hit very, very hard by it, but there's a lot of pent-up demand. People are dying to get out and travel. And San Francisco is a bucket list destination. There are people who have never been here who want to see the Golden Gate Bridge. They want to ride a cable car. So what we're trying to do is really promote the city and tell people we're open and we're here and we're welcoming to all. So we are starting to see, just especially in the last month, that pent-up demand. We're seeing a lot of bookings and interest in the city.
Well, that's fantastic. I got to tell you, the self-guided walking tour of women's history in San Francisco, I want to take that. And you have other themed tours on sftravel.com. So hopefully folks will check it out. Lynn, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kristen. Bye-bye.
We'll be right back. All right, Lynn, we're actually still here on Facebook Live, so if you have a couple more minutes, we can finish out our chat because we're done with the on-air part, but we also do stream on Facebook Live and some other places. But I want to ask you, what are some of your other favorite ways to see the city? To tell you the truth, I've only looked at this, and I saw there were other cool kind of themes. What else would you suggest?
I always say just walking the city and kind of just letting it be like a serendipitous type of a trip, just kind of exploring different alleyways. We've got all these beautiful murals in the Mission that you may not know exist. You can do a light art tour actually at night. So, and it's free. It's all outdoors. We do a festival each year at the right around Thanksgiving called Illuminate SF. And basically, there's so many light art exhibitions in the city that you can actually walk from each one and view art that way. Again, the murals, so you can kind of do an arts and culture themed tour if you want. Or you yourself mentioned a culinary tour. And one of the great things about San Francisco is obviously our wonderful food and dining scene. And in honor of Women's History Month, Dominique Crenn was the first woman awarded 3 Michelin stars in the world. So we hold a really high honor in our culinary scene too.
I know, Crenn Atelier, and just amazing. We are very lucky to be here. So much to visit, and it's fun to be like a local tourist, right? You just come into San Francisco and each time new discovery. Thank you so much, Lynn Bruni, for sharing some of that with us, and good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Wow, that show just flew on by. I only wish I had more time with Abel Sanchez because that song for Cesar seems so cool, but signal issue. All right, coming back.
7, 6, 5.
Thank you so much for joining us on this interactive show, Getting Answers Today. We'll be here every weekday at 3 on air and on live stream. Bye-bye.